My name is Maren Ellsworth, 37 years old. By session 7, I could predict the choreography, the soft lamp in the corner, the water glasses sweating on coasters, Dr. Morrison's pen hovering like a metronome over his legal pad, while my husband rehearsed being wounded. Maren just doesn't hear me anymore, Dylan said, palms open, voice hushed for effect. 6 weeks ago, I'd agreed to couples therapy because 14 years deserved a last careful look. Also because at 2:04 a.m., I'd caught him texting his work wife, Tessa, emojis that don't belong at that hour. He'd sworn it wasn't physical. What it was didn't matter as much as what it broke. Dr. Morrison nodded. And how do you experience that, Maren? Today, I was quieter than usual. Not because I had nothing to say, but because something was wrong, the way Dylan kept tilting his phone to check the screen between sentences, the way a tiny smile leaked when Dr. Morrison wrote a note. I experience it like a performance, I said. Dylan's jaw flexed. See? That's dismissive. We're going to take a quick pause. Dr. Morrison stood, apologetic. 2 minutes. I need to refill my water. When the door clicked, Dylan's shoulders dropped like a curtain. He yanked out his phone, walked 3 steps toward the window, and dialed. Yeah, we're almost done, he said into the glass. No, he's buying it completely. Hartley said 6 more sessions looks great. Shows I tried. A beat, then a low laugh. Oh, I'm definitely getting the house. Judge loves when one spouse makes genuine effort and the other sits there like a bump on a log. My blood went quiet. I slid my own phone from my bag without looking down. Opened voice memos. Pressed record. I don't even care about fixing anything, Dylan said, voice softer now, like he was talking to a secret he trusted. Tessa and I have plans once this is done, but I need the equity first. House is like $340, and alimony for at least 5 years, since I went part-time for her career. He smiled at his reflection. Hartley's right. The therapist's notes back it up. It's perfect. Footsteps in the hall. He stiffened. Gotta go. He's coming back. Phone in pocket. Face reset. Dr. Morrison returned with water, serene as a pond. Okay, he said, settling. Where were we? Nowhere we need to be anymore, I said, standing. My hands didn't shake. That felt like a miracle. Maren, Dylan tried for injured. Sit down. Dr. Morrison, I asked, are your session notes considered legal documents that can be subpoenaed in divorce proceedings? He blinked. They can be? Yes. Why? Because my husband just admitted he's using therapy to make me look uncommunicative, so he can win the house and alimony in a divorce he's already planning with his ex-girlfriend once the ink dries. That's, Dylan began, but I raised a finger. Would you like to hear yourself, I asked, and tapped play. The room filled with his voice. Judge loves when one spouse makes genuine effort. Maren's too stupid to realize what's happening. Tessa and I have plans once this is done. Need the equity from the house. Alimony for at least 5 years. Hartley said the therapist's notes will back me up. It's perfect. Color drained from his face like somebody pulled a plug. Dr. Morrison set his pen down very carefully. Mr. Ellsworth, he said quietly, is this accurate? Dylan swallowed. I was venting. You're taking it out of context. The context, I said, my voice surprisingly calm, is 6 weeks of you lying to a professional and to me so you can parade effort in court. I turned to Dr. Morrison. I'm terminating therapy effective immediately. I'll need documentation of today's session and a formal summary of prior sessions, especially this incident. He hesitated, torn between ethics and outrage. I can provide summaries. As to what just occurred, I'll consult my ethics board. His eyes were kind, then flint. Weaponizing therapy for litigation is not therapeutic. You can't just, Dylan said, reaching for authority he no longer owned. This is why we need therapy. You always overreact. No, I said. I finally react. There's a difference. I looked at Dr. Morrison. Can you have the documentation within a week? I'll make it a priority. Great, I picked up my bag. Dylan, call Mr. Hartley. Tell him my attorney will be in touch. I walked out. The hallway smelled like lemon cleaner and some collected grief. In the elevator, my hands started to tremble. Adrenaline arrived late to the scene. I pressed G and watched our reflection fall together, then watched mine rise alone when the doors parted. In the car, I dialed my lawyer. Garrison and Wells, this is Nora. It's Maren Ellsworth, I said, surprised at the steadiness in my voice. I need Leon Wells. Emergency. 20 minutes later, I was in Leon's glass-walled office, downtown, glittering behind him like a conspiracy. He listened to the recording 3 times. Each time, his eyebrows climbed half a story. One-party consent, he said finally, leaning back. We're fine. And he made these statements while actively misusing a clinical setting. Judges hate that. What about the house? Marital property normally, he said. But between the recording, the therapist's probable statement, and the documented scheme, we can argue for exclusive use and very favorable division. His smile had too many teeth to be merciful. We'll make his life very difficult. I nodded, clutching the edge of the chair to stop my body from shaking out of habit. File, I said. I want him out. I want the house. Give me 48 hours, Leon said, already typing. And Marin? Yes? That recording, he said, just turned a he said, she said into a confession. You did the right thing. On my way home, the city felt both new and familiar, like a place I'd visited once in a dream and finally found again on a map. I parked in our driveway and sat in the quiet. For the first time in a long time, I didn't rehearse what to say to a man who wasn't listening. Inside, I moved into the guest room with the efficiency of someone evacuating before a storm. I changed the Wi-Fi password, boxed the framed photos for evidence, left his side of the closet untouched. In the kitchen, I labeled a folder documents and slid the printed transcript of his confession inside. The next morning, papers were filed. By the time the process server knocked on Dylan's office door, my phone had already started its performance, call after call, buzzing across the counter like a trapped insect. I let each one die. A text finally stuck. Dylan, we need to talk. This is insane. I'm coming home early. At 3:08 p.m., the front door burst open. He stood in the kitchen, waving the petition like a white flag on fire. What the hell is this? He demanded. Legal documents, I said, pouring coffee with hands that no longer shook. You're familiar with those. You can't just file without talking to me. Why not? I stirred the coffee, watched the swirl. You just spent 6 weeks lying to me in therapy without talking to me. That recording is illegal, Hartley said. Mr. Hartley is wrong, I said. One-party consent. Also, Dr. Morrison's already consulting his board about testifying to the manipulation. He paled. He can't. Therapist-client privilege doesn't cover weaponized fraud, I said. Leon confirmed it with their counsel. This is vindictive, he said, trying to find purchase. We can work through this. You called me stupid, I said softly. You planned to strip our house and my income while sleeping on a fantasy with Tessa. What are we working through? Stage direction? For a heartbeat, something real flashed in his eyes. Panic, maybe. Then it hardened. Fine, he spat. Mr. Hartley is the best in the city. You're going to regret this. Maybe, I said, but you're going to regret that phone call more. He stomped down the hall and slammed our bedroom door. I stood alone in the kitchen and let the silence prove something I'd only suspected. I was going to be okay. 2 days later, Leon forwarded an email. Mr. Hartley wanted an emergency conference to discuss premature filings. Leon attached an MP3 and typed one line. We'll play it for them. The call was scheduled for Friday at 2 o'clock. By 1:50, I was sitting across from Leon Wells, my lawyer, in his downtown office, a shark tank with a view. The skyline shimmered in the window behind him. My phone, face down on the table, buzzed every few minutes. Dylan had called 19 times since Tuesday. I hadn't answered once. Leon checked his watch. You ready? Ready as I'll ever be. He hit dial on the conference speaker. A moment later, the line clicked, and Mr. Hartley's clipped voice filled the room. Mr. Wells, this filing is premature and inflammatory, Hartley began. My client was blindsided. Leon's tone didn't change. Your client was recorded admitting to fraud in a clinical setting. Obtained illegally, Hartley snapped, under duress. One-party consent, Leon said smoothly. Completely legal. There was a pause, then the faint sound of paper rustling on the other end. Furthermore, Leon continued, Dr. Morrison is prepared to testify that therapy was misused as a litigation tool. He's already contacted his ethics board. The silence that followed was beautiful. When Hartley finally spoke again, his voice had lost its edge. My client is willing to negotiate. Leon glanced at me. I nodded once. No negotiation, he said. Our terms are simple. Dylan gets half the liquid savings, his car, his personal belongings. Marin keeps the house. No alimony. Dylan's voice exploded through the speaker. Half the savings? The house has $340 in equity. I'm entitled to nothing after committing fraud, Leon cut in. But we're feeling generous. Take the offer, or we go to court with the recording and Dr. Morrison's statement. Your choice. The silence stretched long enough for me to hear my own heartbeat. We'll need time to discuss, Hartley said at last. You have until Monday, Leon replied. After that, we pursue full sanctions. He ended the call without a goodbye. That night, Dylan tried another angle. At 11:17 p.m., he knocked on the guest room door. Soft, polite, calculated. Marin, can we talk? I opened it. He was in pajamas, barefoot, face scrubbed clean like vulnerability could be a costume. This is crazy, he said. We can fix this. I'll drop the house claim. We'll do real therapy this time. No, Dylan. I made a mistake, a big one, but 14 years. 14 years where you called me stupid behind my back, I said. 14 years where you planned to rob me blind. That's not a mistake, that's a pattern. I never cheated, he said quickly. Tessa and I don't care. He flinched. You don't mean that. I mean it enough to have it notarized. His expression changed, soft melting to steel. Fine, he said coldly. You want to play hardball? Hartley has strategies you can't imagine. I'm sure, I said, closing the door. So do I. He spent the rest of the night pacing the living room, muttering into his phone. By Monday morning, the counterattack began. My boss called first. Marin, can we talk? My stomach tightened. Of course. HR received an anonymous complaint, she said, alleging you've been making inappropriate comments about your spouse and creating a hostile environment for men. I almost laughed. You know that's ridiculous. I do, she said gently. HR dismissed it immediately, but I wanted you to know, someone's trying to rattle you. Mission failed, I said, though my pulse betrayed me. The second strike hit at lunch. My credit card declined. I called the bank. There's been a report this card was stolen, the representative said. We froze your account pending verification. Who reported it? Your husband. Of course he did. It took an hour to sort out. By the time I hung up, my anger had burned down to something quieter, colder. He wanted chaos. I'd give him paperwork. Wednesday morning, the doorbell rang. A process server stood there with an envelope. Petition for restraining order. Filed by Dylan Ellsworth. I called Leon. You've got to be kidding me. He sighed. It's retaliation. Classic. Don't panic. We'll respond formally. Court date Friday. Friday, 9 o'clock a.m. Small courtroom. The air smelled like dust and recycled air conditioning. The judge, Patricia Holloway, looked like she'd been awake since 1995. Hartley began immediately. Your Honor, my client has endured threatening behavior from his wife. He feels unsafe remaining in the marital home. Judge Holloway raised an eyebrow. What behavior specifically? Verbal aggression, intimidation, recording him without consent. Leon stood. The recording was legal, Your Honor, and it reveals Mr. Ellsworth admitted to defrauding both the court and a medical professional. Play it, Judge Holloway said. Leon hit play. Dylan's voice filled the courtroom. Hartley said 6 more sessions looks great. Shows I tried. Oh, I'm definitely getting the house. The judge's expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened like glass. Mr. Ellsworth, she said, you told your attorney you plan to manipulate therapy for legal gain? Dylan shifted in his seat. That's taken out of context. Seems perfectly clear to me. She looked at Hartley. Anything else? My client feels unsafe, Hartley repeated weakly. Petition denied, Judge Holloway said flatly. If he's uncomfortable in the home, he's welcome to leave. Mrs. Ellsworth, file for exclusive use of the property. Next case. It was over in 6 minutes. Outside the courtroom, Dylan tried to corner me. Marin, please, he said. This is getting out of hand. You filed a false restraining order, I said. I was scared. You were strategic, I corrected. Big difference. Hartley pulled him away, whispering furiously. I caught one word. Damaging. They weren't wrong. That evening, Leon called. His tone was brighter than it had been in weeks. Good news, he said. Dr. Morrison has officially agreed to testify. His statement is brutal, calls Dylan's conduct a clear misuse of therapeutic services. What does that mean for the house? It means the judge already doesn't like him, Leon said. Between the fraud, the restraining order stunt, and the therapist's testimony, we have an 80% chance you keep it outright. Only 80? It's still marital property, he said. But fraud changes everything. Judges hate deception. I exhaled, a sound that felt like release. I'll take 80. The next day, Dylan moved out. Well, technically, his mother Beverly helped him pack. She shot me dagger looks the entire time. You're destroying his life, she hissed, loading boxes into her car. He destroyed our marriage, I said evenly. I'm just filing the paperwork. He made one mistake. He made 6 weeks of calculated mistakes, I said. Big difference. She turned fully toward me, face red. You're a cold, heartless woman. Dylan gave you the best years of his life. Dylan gave me 14 years of convenience, I said, and now they're up. She slammed the trunk and drove off, tires squealing like punctuation. When they were gone, I found a note on the kitchen counter. "You'll regret this." I took a photo, texted it to Leon. "Document everything. She's spiraling," he replied. I smiled. "She?" "Freudian slip," he texted back. "He's spiraling. Same energy." That night, the house felt strange. Quiet, but alive. I walked through every room, touching the walls, the countertops, the doorknobs, like reacquainting myself with an old friend. It was mine again. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the window onto the floorboards. I made a mental note to refinish them, something Dylan had vetoed for years. For the first time, the house didn't feel like evidence in a divorce. It felt like home. Monday morning, Leon called before I'd even finished my first cup of coffee. "I filed for exclusive occupancy at 8:01 a.m., he said. "The motion's clean. Between the fraud, the false restraining order, and Dr. Morrison's statement, the judge won't blink." "Good," I said. "I'm ready to be done." He chuckled. "Marin, we're not done yet, but we're getting there." When I hung up, I sat in the kitchen and looked around. The same space where Dylan used to brag about his culinary experiments, leaving chaos in his wake. Now the counters were spotless, the air finally still. It was strange how peace could feel so loud at first. That afternoon, I got an email from Dr. Morrison himself. "Ms. Ellsworth, I've submitted my statement to your counsel. I also wanted to apologize personally. I should have recognized what your husband was doing sooner. Couples therapy is supposed to heal, not become a weapon. I wish you peace and closure." I read it twice, then whispered, "Me too." It felt like the first genuine apology I'd heard in months, and it wasn't even from Dylan. By midweek, Dylan's nice guy act had fully cracked. At 12:47 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text. "I'll drop the house claim. I'll do real therapy. Please just talk to me." At 12:52, another. "Fine, you win. Enjoy your stupid empty house." Then, 2 hours later, "You'll regret this when I'm gone." I stared at that one too long, debating whether to call Leon or the police. Eventually, I forwarded it to both. Leon replied instantly. "Don't respond. Everything in writing. He's unraveling." On Thursday, Beverly showed up again, unannounced this time. I opened the door halfway. "Mrs. Ellsworth." "Don't Mrs. Ellsworth me," she snapped. "You can't treat my son like garbage and pretend you're the victim." "I'm not pretending," I said calmly. "You ruined him. He's staying in a motel, living out of boxes, all because of that stupid recording." "The recording that captured him planning to defraud me?" She flushed. "He was angry. People say things." "People plan entire legal strategies, apparently." Beverly's voice cracked. "He loved you." "No," I said softly. "He loved control." She blinked, eyes watering. For a moment, I almost pitied her. She'd raised a man who learned early that charm could erase damage until someone refused to forget. She turned to leave, but paused at the end of the driveway. "You'll never find someone who loves you like he did," she said. "That's the point," I said, closing the door. Later that night, Leon texted. "Judge Holloway granted exclusive use, effective immediately." I reread the message 3 times before it sank in. The house, my house, was legally mine again. No shared claim, no equity battle, just 4 walls, 1 name. I sat on the floor of the living room and cried, not from sadness, but from the kind of relief that makes your body remember how to breathe. The next morning, I took the first small step toward reclaiming my life. I opened the windows. The breeze carried in spring air and the faint hum of the neighborhood. For the first time in months, I didn't smell cologne or resentment, just air. By noon, I was pulling painter's tape across the trim of the bedroom, something Dylan had always said was a waste of time and money. He liked gray. I wanted sage green. By sunset, the walls were mine too. When I finished cleaning up, I found another envelope under the front door. Inside, a folded piece of paper. "You stole my life, but I'll get it back." I took a photo and sent it to Leon with 1 word. "Documented." He replied, "Smart, don't engage." I didn't. The following week, Leon called with another update. "Dr. Morrison's deposition is on file. It's damning." "How bad for him?" I asked. Let's just say the phrase pattern of calculated manipulation appears more than once. And the board's ethics committee might pursue sanctions if they can prove collusion between Dylan and Hartley. "Good," I said. "He used therapy as theater. Someone should care about the damage that caused." Leon paused. "You sound calm." "I am," I said. I think I finally stopped expecting apologies. 2 nights later, I caught a glimpse of Tessa in the grocery store. She was in the wine aisle, pretending to study labels, but when our eyes met, she froze. "Marin," she said, forcing a smile. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I live here," I said. "You?" Her cheeks pinked. "Just picking something up for Dylan." Of course she was. "Tell him to stop leaving notes under my door," I said. Her lips parted. He's not okay." He wasn't okay long before this, I said quietly. He just found someone else willing to excuse it. She flinched, like I'd hit her with the truth instead of words. He said you'd say something like that. I'm sure he did. I turned to leave, then looked back. Be careful, Tessa. He doesn't love partners. He loves props. The look on her face told me she already knew. That weekend, Leon called with news about mediation. Date's set, he said. 3 weeks from now. Retired judge named Harold Keir. Sharp, fair, no tolerance for theatrics. Perfect, I said. Leon hesitated. You ready for that room, Marin? He'll try to get in your head again. I looked around the kitchen, at the painted walls, the open windows, the soft hum of music playing from my own playlist. I think he already tried, I said, and I'm still here. The morning of mediation, I woke before dawn. The house was quiet, the way a heart is after a long panic attack. Still beating, but differently. I made coffee, sat on the porch, and watched the sun climb over the trees. 14 years of marriage, 6 weeks of deception, 1 recording. I wasn't sure what I'd say when I saw Dylan again. Maybe nothing at all. Some things didn't deserve words. The conference room smelled like coffee, printer toner, and other people's endings. A long oak table divided the space into 2 halves, mine and his. Dylan sat across from me, his suit too crisp, his eyes darting like a man trying to remember which version of himself he'd chosen today. Beside him, his lawyer, Mr. Hartley, whispered something that made him nod mechanically. Beside me, Leon leaned back in his chair, unbothered, flipping through the file that had already dismantled everything Dylan thought he could control. At the head of the table sat Judge Harold Keir, gray beard, calm presence, and the kind of patience that comes from decades of watching people destroy themselves politely. All right, he said, looking over his reading glasses. Let's see if we can resolve this without another courtroom wasting its time. He opened the file in front of him. Mrs. Ellsworth, Mr. Ellsworth, 14 years married, no minor children. Marital assets include 1 primary residence, joint savings, 2 vehicles, and retirement accounts. Am I missing anything? Dylan cleared his throat. Respect, you're missing respect. Judge Keir didn't look up. Respect isn't an asset, Mr. Ellsworth, not in a legal sense. Leon's pen scratched quietly across the notepad. The judge flipped to the next page. I've reviewed the recording, Dr. Morrison's statement, and the restraining order transcript. Mrs. Ellsworth, do you dispute any of this evidence? Dylan's jaw tightened. Taken out of context, he muttered. Of course, Judge Keir said dryly. But unfortunately, context doesn't usually involve laughing about defrauding your spouse. He leaned forward, eyes sharp now. Mr. Ellsworth, I've presided over hundreds of divorces. You're the first person I've seen use therapy as a performance for property acquisition. Congratulations on your creativity. It's also fraud. Hartley shifted uncomfortably. Your Honor, my client was under extreme emotional distress. Your client was under extreme arrogance, the judge said evenly. There's a difference. For the first time since this began, Dylan had no response. Judge Keir turned to me. Mrs. Ellsworth, what are you seeking? I kept my voice calm. The house. He keeps half of the liquid savings, his car, his personal belongings, and his own retirement account. No alimony. Clean break. Hartley leaned forward. That's less than half the marital assets. The house. Leon cut in smoothly. The house is normally 50-50, yes, but fraud is an equalizer. She paid the mortgage. He planned to weaponize that payment. The recording changes everything. Judge Keir nodded. I agree. This isn't about fairness. It's about consequence. Dylan's hand curled into a fist on the table. You can't just take everything from me. I met his eyes. You already tried to take it from me. For a second, the mask slipped. I saw the flicker of the man who had once held my hand through hospital waiting rooms and who, somewhere along the way, had learned to lie with that same hand. Then it was gone. Judge Keir looked between us. Mr. Ellsworth, let me be plain. If this goes to trial, that recording becomes Exhibit A. The therapist testifies. The judge who already denied your restraining order presides again. You will not win the house. You will likely lose equity and could be ordered to pay her legal fees. My advice? Take the offer and rebuild. Silence fell heavy, the kind that decides everything before anyone speaks. Dylan's eyes dropped to the table. His voice, when it came, was small. Fine, I'll take it. Hartley's pen moved quickly. We'll draft the paperwork. Judge Keir nodded. Smart choice. And just like that, 14 years ended with one word. He didn't look at me again as he signed. I didn't look at him, either. When the session adjourned, Judge Keir stood. Mrs. Ellsworth, he said, For what it's worth, you handled yourself with grace. Most people don't survive betrayal this calculated without losing themselves. Thank you, I said quietly. I think I already lost enough. He smiled kindly. You also kept something most people don't. Proof. The official papers were signed that week. No alimony, no appeals, just signatures, stamps, and silence. Dylan moved out of state within a month. Through mutual friends, I heard he and Tessa were renting a small apartment near the city. Apparently, she was helping him get back on his feet. I tried not to imagine her realizing what that really meant, carrying his excuses, waiting for his next confession. I didn't feel smug, just done. When I walked into my house after finalizing the divorce, the quiet felt different. It wasn't emptiness anymore, it was peace. The walls didn't echo with rehearsed apologies. The kitchen didn't smell like someone else's cologne. The air didn't feel borrowed. It was mine. I started small. Painted the kitchen cabinets the soft blue Dylan had called too feminine. Replaced the heavy curtains with sheer ones that let morning light spill across the floor. Hung a new mirror in the hallway, not to check my reflection, but to remind myself that I existed outside his gaze. Dr. Morrison sent a handwritten card a week later. I'm sorry for my role in this mess. Therapy should have protected you, not armed him. I hope the space you fought for gives you peace. I set it on the mantel beside a photo of myself at 23, the day we bought the house. I barely recognized her, all optimism and wide eyes, but she was still in there, somewhere. I was finally making room for her again. Leon called once the decree was finalized. Congratulations, homeowner, he said. You know, I might actually frame this case. The waveform of that confession looks beautiful printed large. I laughed. You're terrible. Terribly efficient, he said. You won back everything he tried to weaponize. That's rare. When we hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine, stepped onto the porch, and listened to the crickets sing in the dark. The house was quiet but alive, the way it had been before betrayal moved in. I thought about all the years I spent mistaking endurance for love, loyalty for silence. He'd called me too emotional, too reactive, too sensitive. But sensitivity was what saved me. It's what made me record him that day. It's what made me recognize cruelty, even when it dressed up as vulnerability. I didn't just win a house, I won myself back. Sometimes, late at night, I still catch echoes of our old life. His laugh in the back of my mind, the way his shoes used to squeak on the kitchen tile. But I don't flinch anymore. I just breathe. The walls remember, but they don't hurt, and neither do I.